Sandy Ryan was absolutely robbed in Orlando tonight. And I don't use that word lightly, but this decision was absolutely atrocious. I said in my pre-fight prediction video that in order to win this fight, and by the way, I predicted Jessica McCaskill to win. So when I say this, I would like to tell you that McCaskill deserved to win the fight or deserved the draw for the sake of my own prediction being correct. But the reality is that Sandy Ryan won this fight so clearly that the judges, you can't even really comprehend what they were watching in this fight. Because in order to win, I said in the pre-fight prediction that Sandy Ryan needed to be able to move around the ring and get Jessica McCaskill to lunge forward and move in and out of range so that McCaskill would be lunging forward and Sandy Ryan could counter her. And I also said she needed to be able to meet fire with fire when Jessica McCaskill got close, because she throws bombs and Sandy Ryan needed to be able to keep up with that and have the strength to push her off her in the clinch. Well, guess what? That's exactly what happened. Sandy Ryan did a fantastic job of moving around the ring on her back foot, being able to control the range and getting McCaskill to go lunging forward and missing. And truthfully, Jessica McCaskill could barely get anywhere near Sandy Ryan in the first 5 rounds. On my scorecard watching the fight, I had Jessica McCaskill down by 5 rounds to 0, meaning I had Sandy Ryan winning all of the first 5 rounds. At best, I think you could have given McCaskill 1 of those rounds. And then in the second half of the fight, rounds 6 through 10, at most, I would have given Jessica McCaskill 2 out of those rounds, meaning the very closest I think you could have scored this fight would have been 7 rounds to 3 in favor of Sandy Ryan, and possibly even as one-sided as 8 rounds to 2 in her favor. There were a couple of points in rounds 6 and 7, I believe it was, where McCaskill actually did manage to get inside, hit her with some shots, and rock Sandy Ryan a little bit. But Sandy Ryan held her own. She met fire with fire in these exchanges, and she managed to actually do a fantastic job of outfighting the champion in those exchanges. She was stronger. She was able to stand up to McCaskill's physicality, and she was able to move in and out of range and make her lunge and miss the whole fight. Now, the thing is, Sandy Ryan was robbed tonight of her opportunity to go into the lion's den, as it were, and in front of a hostile crowd. Because when the fight started, the crowd was on Jessica McCaskill's side. They cheered her when she came out, and they gave Sandy Ryan a lukewarm reception, and they were on the side of the American fighter. But by the end, she had actually won the crowd over, and they were cheering for her. They wanted to see her actually win because the crowd in Orlando recognized that Sandy Ryan was the deserved winner and deserved to go home with 3 of the 4 belts in the women's welterweight division. And the crowd expected that to happen. So when the judges' scores were announced and the second judge had the fight for McCaskill and the third judge had the fight a 95-95 draw, when David Diamante announced that, there was an enormous chorus of boos from virtually everyone in the audience. The whole crowd in Orlando was booing this decision. And this was the decision that actually benefited the American fighter, in the sense that most people in the crowd clearly expected Jessica McCaskill to lose. And you could tell from her body language before the decision was announced, when the fight ended, Sandy Ryan and her team believed they'd won, and Jessica McCaskill and her team did not. They believed they'd lost the fight. Now afterwards, she tried to say in the post-fight interview that she felt like she could have got a split decision victory. But the reality is, I believe she knew deep down, and you could tell from her body language, that she hadn't won this fight. The audience certainly was very, very unhappy with the decision, and well, they should be. Because the fact is, Sandy Ryan can never get this moment back. This was her first fight in the United States. It was a big deal for her. It was for 3 of the 4 belts, and it was in front of a hostile crowd in her opponent's home country. And not only that, but she completely outboxed the champion and was also more physical than her in the clinch. So in every aspect, Sandy Ryan did exactly what you would expect someone to do or would want someone to do. And beat the champion in every area, with the exception of getting a knockout. There was nothing more that she could have done to win this fight realistically. But instead, she will never, ever be able to get back what she should have got tonight, which was winning and unifying 3 of the belts in her weight class. Because even if there's a rematch, and it seems quite clear that there will be after this, number one, there's no guarantee that she will win the fight. And number two, it won't be in the same circumstances. It won't be in her first trip to the United States. Even if it's in the United States, it won't be on her first trip to the United States in front of this crowd that by the end of the fight would have been cheering for her. It won't be the same circumstances. So this is a moment that has been forever taken from her, and it's not right. If you haven't seen this fight, I encourage you to go and watch it. But this was a terrible, terrible decision. It was a robbery. Sandy Ryan should hold 3 of the 4 belts in the welterweight division, and we should be setting up for a unification fight between her and Natasha Jonas. Instead, we're heading for a rematch with Jessica McCaskill. Now, that fight could still go either way. Jessica McCaskill is still a dangerous fighter, but the fact is, Sandy Ryan was the deserved winner of the fight tonight, and unfortunately, the judges stole that possibility from her, and it can never be given back regardless of what happens in the rematch, and that's not right. Let me know what you thought in the comments, but if you haven't seen this fight, I encourage you to go and watch it and view this terrible decision for yourself.